Welcome to Hutchinson Economic Developments, a collaboration between HCVN and the Hutchinson Economic Development Authority. My name is Miles Seppelt. I'm the Economic Development Director for the city, and I'll be the host for this program. Hutchinson Economic Developments is designed to be a news and information program to bring the public up to date with current economic development and community development projects happening here in Hutchinson. Each program is going to have two segments. The first segment will be news and information on current projects, just bringing everybody up to date with what's going on and what the next steps are and what to look for. And then the second segment is going to be a deeper dive into some economic development topic. Our goal is to bring you two programs each month. For this first program, we're going to take a look at The Landing, the new apartment project that's being built on the Crow River between Franklin Street and Glen Street. And then in the second segment, we're going to take a deep dive and start looking at Tiger Path, the award-winning program over at Hutchinson High School. Okay, in our first segment, we're going to talk about The Landing, the new apartment project that's being built on the Crow River. So I'm going to give you a little update on the project and the schedule, a little bit of information about rental opportunities, and then I'll talk a little bit about the history of the project. So this began for us, for the city, probably back in 2016. It's been a long run to get to this point. The Landing itself, now this is the new project next to the Crow River. It's between Franklin Street and Glen Street, 81-unit apartment complex, covers a whole city block. It's a huge project, $20 million project. It's the biggest project in downtown Hutchinson ever. So on your screen now, I'm going to show you the site plan for this. And the building itself is in brown. It's a big reverse L. And this is going to be a 4-story building. It'll have ground level parking that you'll be able to drive in and park. And then there'll be external parking as well. And then above the parking level, there's going to be 3 levels of apartments. So altogether, it's going to be a 4-story building. It'll be a little bit taller than the surroundings, for sure. On the northwest corner of that site is going to be a stormwater retention pond. And then other features that are going to be there, there's going to be an outdoor patio and a fire pit for the residents. And there'll be a fenced-in dog park that people can use as well. And then, of course, the project is going to have sidewalks all the way around it. And then one of the more interesting features is that on the top of the building, on the rooftop of the building, there's going to be a rooftop patio. And this will be on the southeast corner, so it'll kind of overlook downtown. It'll be facing toward Dairy Queen. So that'll be a neat amenity. Next spring is when the pond gets put in. Over the course of the next 12 months, that's when the building is going to get put up. And then next summer, the city's going to be making some improvements to Glen Street. And then we're also looking at the possibility of putting in a 10-foot wide trail along the river that would connect Girl Scout Park and Cedar Park. So this one's kind of undecided yet. We still need to come up with a way to fund it, but it's kind of what we're talking about. The project itself, the rents are going to be just market rate rents. So it's going to range anywhere from, I think, about $1,100 or so for a studio apartment up to about $1,700 for a 3-bedroom apartment. The project itself, it's going to have studio. It'll have 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom apartments. So a real variety for people to choose from. One thing that I should note is that because it's a public project, because it's a city project that we were involved in, there is a low to moderate income component to it. So a certain percentage of the units, they're reserved for people with low to moderate incomes. About 20% of the units, that works out to about 16 apartments. They're just going to be reserved for tenants that have incomes at or below 50% of area median income. So really, this project is for anybody at any income level to have a nice apartment in a nice location. The project, it started construction here in October, just a couple weeks ago, and the developers are saying they're going to have this thing open and ready to go in about 12 or 13 months. So I would say late fall, early winter of 2026, the landing should be open and it should be available to be rented. For people that are looking for rental opportunities, the developer has a waiting list that they have created. And so on your screen, it shows name Jessica Hulls would be the gal to call. And her number, it's 320-257-3729. And they'll put you on a waiting list. And then when it comes time to actually start renting these things out, they will give you a call and set something up. So, like I said earlier, the project began a long time ago. It was 19 years ago when we started working on this thing. And it was, quite honestly, one of the more complicated projects that we've ever done. We had certain goals that we wanted to achieve. And so really the biggest one is just to remove blight. At the time, there was an old office building on that site that was looking very bad. And so we bought it and removed it and just wanted to improve that area, set the stage for redevelopment. The second goal was to create more market rate housing. We have a tremendous shortage of housing in Hutchinson. And anything that we can do to increase the supply of housing is what we wanted to be involved in doing. I understand that folks are concerned about the high level of rents in town. And the reason for that is because it's just a shortage. When you have a shortage of housing, the rents tend to go up. And so by doing this project, we're increasing the supply of housing units available. That will help rental prices to moderate a little bit as we increase the supply. And then our third goal in doing this project is we just wanted to strengthen downtown. With this apartment project, we're going to have a lot of people that will be just living right there. And that's going to help every downtown business. So really, those are the three goals that we had as we went into this project. As I mentioned earlier, it began in 2016. And there was a property there that was just blighted. It was a medical office building. And quite honestly, the thing was falling apart. Water was coming in through the roof. The building itself had mold in it. And it was just in very bad shape. And it was way beyond being able to repair it or renovate it or salvage it in any way. So the Economic Development Authority, we got involved. We said, well, we'll buy this thing and we're going to remove it. And then we'll have this half of a block to do something better with that we can redevelop. So we did that. And then it turned out that FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, came to us and they made us aware of a grant opportunity to remove properties that are in the 100-year floodplain. And so there was 3 houses there that were in the 100-year floodplain, and we thought, well, let's give it a try. And if we're successful, that will let us do a bigger project. So we put in for the grant, got an award of $672,000 that set the stage for us to acquire these properties. Then as we're doing that, the opportunity came along to get the rest of the houses on the block. So we're thinking, well, we have an opportunity to clear a whole city block. It's 2 acres. And so we thought, and the property, the owner of these other properties was right there. So we could talk with this one owner, buy 3 properties. And so really it was an opportunity where we're dealing with just a limited number of owners and then 5 separate city lots. So we launched into that. And ultimately we're able to acquire all the properties and clear the entire block. And that set the stage for a much bigger project. As I mentioned earlier, the project itself was super complicated. Just a lot of moving parts, a lot of obstacles that we had to overcome. We purchased the original clinic building back in February of 2016, so that's almost 10 years ago. Had it demolished in May of that year, and then we were meeting with developers in 2017, 2018, and there was a proposal that was put forward at that time, but it was not very intensive use of space. It was really just, doing some twin homes, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 twin homes. And when we're looking at doing these redevelopment projects, we're always thinking in terms of trying to do things for the highest and best use. We want to get the most out of it that we possibly can. So ultimately, we rejected that first proposal. Then in December of 19, we had the opportunity to submit the grant to FEMA, put in for some dollars to acquire some additional properties. So we put that in, and then in 2020, of course, we had the COVID pandemic, and that really messed things up quite a bit, actually. So that slowed us down. It made things a lot more expensive, and it just really stretched out the timeline for this project. In September of 2020, that's when we had another developer step forward. They wanted to do a much bigger project. This was more like a 3-4 story apartment building, 60, 65 units or something like that. So we actually accepted that proposal, and we're kind of setting the stage to move forward on that basis. But, you know, one thing after another kept slowing us down. And so one of these items was that we were notified by FEMA that we were going to get the grant, but before they could award the grant, we had to make sure that the county had an up-to-date disaster preparedness plan. And as luck would have it, their plan had just expired, so they had to go through a whole process to create a new disaster preparedness plan. That took almost 18 months to get that done. And then once that was done, then FEMA could finally award the grant to us officially. So we lost substantial time because of the COVID pandemic. We lost more time because the county plan had expired, and it was just kind of a bureaucratic thing that this had to be in place before FEMA could award the money to us. And then during this time, home prices had gone up quite a bit. And so we didn't have enough money to acquire the properties anymore. The original FEMA grant was not enough. But fortunately, FEMA had a way that they could expand the grant that they awarded us. So they gave us some additional dollars to account for the inflation that happened with the houses during this time period. And that really kind of allowed us to move forward. So we're in the process of acquiring properties. There's 5 houses that we have to acquire. It's 3 separate property owners. That was a time-consuming process. And then in the middle of this process, the developer, the original developer that we had agreed with, decided not to move forward. And the reason was because of the pandemic. Inflation had really taken hold. Material prices had gone way up. Interest rates had gone way up. And because of all these things, the project just really wasn't feasible for him to do anymore. So he backed out, and we were able to reacquire the property that we had sold them. So it's all back to square one. And by 2023, 2024, we've had the 5 houses purchased. So now we actually control and have this whole 2-acre city block. So early last year, early 2024, we put out a new request for proposals. And that's just where we put together a bunch of information for developers to look at, try to answer all their questions, and make them comfortable with doing a project there. And then by the fall of last year, we had received 3 proposals from 3 separate developers. So we went through a process where we scored all the proposals. We had the developers present to the EDA board and the city council. And then through that, we ranked them, and then we picked Granite City Real Estate Partners to be the developer for this project. So then it's a process of them doing their due diligence on the site. They got to take soil borings, all kinds of things like that. And then we're getting the legal documents ready to go and so forth. A lot of little steps to take care of. But by September, so now this is just last month, we're able to sign a development agreement with the developer, and we conveyed the property to them. And then in October, construction starts. So here we are, fall of 2025. We're kind of done with our side of it. Construction is underway, and this thing is rolling forward very quickly. Construction is going to happen very fast. So, like I said before, this is going to have huge economic impact on our downtown. It's a $20 million project. A big chunk of that is just paying the labor. So that means we're going to have a lot of local contractors, electricians, plumbers, bricklayers, heating and ventilation specialists, carpenters. They're going to have a lot of work that's going to come out of this. And a lot of materials are going to get purchased locally to do this project. So it's just going to have a big impact locally on our local economy. And then once the building is built, they will have ongoing supply needs. There will be ongoing uses of energy and so forth. They'll consume a lot of electricity. So it's really going to make a big difference for Hutchinson. And it's going to make a big difference downtown. With 81 units, 81 apartments, that's, you figure maybe 1.5 people on average for each apartment. So that's going to be 120, 130 people. And they're all going to want to go out to eat. They're going to want to go and get an ice cream cone. They're going to want to go to the movies. They're going to want to go to the bank locally. The list just goes on and on. And so just having that many people in and around the downtown, it's going to make a pretty dramatic difference, I think, for our businesses in the downtown area and for the community as a whole. So that's why the Hutchinson Economic Development Authority and the City of Hutchinson got involved to do this project. It was just an area that needed to be redeveloped. Sometimes they need a push to get something good to happen, and that's why we exist. That's why we do these things. So that's kind of the story of the landing. And now we'll see where we're at in a year, and I think we can look forward to a lot of good things that are going to come out of this. For our second segment of Hutchinson Economic Developments, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive and look at the Tiger Path program here in Hutchinson. So this has been an award-winning thing, and Hutchinson has really gotten a lot of notoriety because of what we've been able to do with this at our local high school, in partnership with local businesses, in partnership with Ridgewater College. Now, because the topic is so big, I really had to divide it into 3 parts. So we'll be talking about Tiger Path here over the next couple episodes, even after today. So in this first segment, the first third basically is just going to be talking about why. Why are we doing this thing? Why do we do Tiger Path? How is the city involved in this thing? Why is the EDA involved in this thing? So that's what we're going to talk about. And then in our next episode, we'll talk about the how. How are we doing this? And then in the final segment, a few weeks from now, we'll talk about what are the outcomes, what are the results that we're able to achieve. So for today, it's really about why. Why are we doing this thing? So it really had 2 areas that it came from. First of all, Patrick Walsh was the principal at the high school back in 2015, 2016. He called me up one day and he was asking about if I could help them line up some tours for high school students so that they could visit some local manufacturers, see what they do inside, and get a better handle on what they want to do in terms of career, or at least just get some ideas. So that's really probably where it started. And then at the same time, as part of my job, I'm out visiting local companies, local manufacturers. And part of that is to try to understand what are their challenges. What is making their life more difficult? And so as I'm visiting local companies, one after another, they kept coming back and saying, Miles, we just have a tremendous shortage of labor. We don't have enough workers to do what we need to do. And I heard this over and over and over again. Going back to Patrick and I were talking about high school, and he was saying, we are not serving our students the best way because we have kind of a one-size-fits-all education. We're aiming students at the university to go get a 4-year degree. That might not be the best answer for every student. And so Patrick was a big proponent of individualized education. Every student is different. Every student's path in terms of education and career should be different. It shouldn't be one size fits all. So that's kind of where it all began. In Hutchinson, as I'm visiting local companies, we had at least 100 or 150 job openings with local manufacturers that we did not have a body to fill that job. And this is a problem that persists even to the current day. Even this year, I have between 100 and 150 job openings with local manufacturers that we cannot get filled. And then that understates the problem because we also have a tremendous skilled workforce shortage in the trades, meaning like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, all that type of thing. We have a tremendous skilled workforce shortage in the medical field too. We need a huge number of registered nurses in the next few years. And it all adds up to the fact that we just need a lot more skilled workforce. And this is not just a Hutchinson problem. It's a Minnesota problem. It's a national problem. Nationally, we need, I think in the next couple years, we have like almost 8 million job openings that we cannot get filled. And there's over 3 million unfilled trade jobs. There's 500,000 unfilled manufacturing jobs. This is a huge challenge for our economy. Now I can hear the question, okay, how can we have an unemployment rate, right? Unemployment rate's 4.5%, and at the same time we have a labor shortage. How can this be? And there's really two answers to it. Part of it is what's called frictional unemployment. That's just people that are between jobs and they take a month off or 2 months off before they go to their next job. The other part has to do with skills. If we have a room full of people looking for work and we have a company that wants to hire welders, but then none of the people in the room know how to weld, then we continue having this problem because we'll keep having unemployed people because they don't have the skills necessary to take the jobs that are available. So this is a big problem. Between now and 2030, this is all going to get worse. You know, we have a shortage of workforce today. 5 years from now, we're going to have 2 million manufacturing jobs going unfilled. And the main reason for this is that baby boomers are retiring. By 2029, all the baby boomers will have hit age 65. And there's just not enough people following in behind them to take all these jobs. And like I said, it's not just manufacturing, it's also medical and these other fields. By 2032, we need 26,000 registered nurses just in Minnesota. So this is a big, big challenge for our economy. And then in addition to the workforce shortage, the skills shortage, we have other problems that kind of go hand in hand with all of this. And one of those is called underemployment. And underemployment means that you have a certain degree, education, but the job you have doesn't require that degree. An example would be, say, well, I have a degree in economics, but I'm working at a job that doesn't require economics. And so there's a huge percentage of recent college graduates that are underemployed. As of 2024, I think it's about 40 or 41% according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we have a lot of people that have these higher level degrees that are working at jobs that simply don't require them. That's a challenge. Another challenge is just rising college costs. Everybody that's a mom or a dad has to be worried about this because the cost of college has just really taken off over the last 40 years or so. Just in terms of the general price level, everything since 1980 is maybe 2.5 or 3.5 times more expensive than what it was in 1980. It's just prices rise over time. That's just what happens. But if you look at other areas like housing or medical care, that is 6 times more expensive today than what it was in 1980. That's huge. The cost of education is 11 or 12 times more expensive today than what it was in 1980. And that's just a huge challenge for families. How do they do this? It's tough. Just looking at our local schools, if you want to go get a 4-year degree from the University of Minnesota, that's going to be over $70,000. And that's just the tuition and the fees. That doesn't even count finding a dorm or an apartment to live in. That's more money yet. And if you want to eat, that's more money yet. And so hugely expensive. And you contrast that with Ridgewater College, where you can go get a 2-year degree, then you're looking at maybe $12,000 to get that done in terms of tuition, and then potentially you could live at home and work at home. So there's a huge swing here just depending on what type of degree that you go after. And then another problem that goes with all of this is student debt has just really exploded because the cost to go to college has gone up so much. It's just more and more necessary to go and get student loans to pay for this. So as of 2024, you graduate from college or you leave college, the average student debt's over $27,000. And that's quite a hole to start in when you're just starting life. So why is all this happening? Why are we having all these challenges? Why do we have a shortage of skilled workforce? Part of it is just because there's a mismatch between what the education system is delivering on one side and what the labor market demands on the other side. Nationwide, about 45 or 50% of high school graduates are going to go off and go to a university. That's just what you do. That's kind of the way our culture is set up, is go to college. That's what makes you a success, in theory. But of that group that goes to the four-year university, 40% are not going to finish because, why are they there? They just go because they're kind of supposed to go, not because they really want to or that they know what they want to do. I remember when I was in college, it took me a couple years to figure out what I wanted to major in. And I switched multiple times before I figured it out. And for a lot of folks, it's just like, this is not for me. It's not a good fit. So years ago, Harvard University came out with a study, and it showed that while 45 or 50% are going off to a four-year university, only 33% of jobs in the whole nation require that level of education. 2/3 of all the jobs, it's a 2-year degree or less, and you're fully qualified to take a good paying job and have a great career. In Minnesota, that disparity is even greater because here in Minnesota, we only 25% of the jobs require a 4-year degree or higher. Here in Minnesota, we're sending about 60% of our high school graduates to go get that 4-year degree. But again, only 25% of the jobs require it. 75% of the jobs in our state, a 2-year degree or less, and you're fully qualified to be successful in this economy. So the need, it's not necessarily to go out and get a degree. That's a good fit for someone. I went to college, I got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and it was a great fit for me, but that doesn't make it a great fit for everybody. Everybody's different, and everybody's interests are different, everybody's talents are different. The real need in our economy is for technical and employable skills. We need more people that know how to do stuff and not simply go get a college degree. So that's really what's the premise behind Tiger Path. And our thinking here in Hutchinson is that the answer to the skilled workforce shortage is right in front of us. They're all in high school right now. They're in 10th grade. And instead of trying to recruit people to come into Hutchinson from the outside, we just need to connect with the people that we already have. The young people that already love Hutchinson, that want to be here. We just need to get them aimed in a direction that matches the job market and that is more in tune with what they're interested in, what they like to do, and their natural giftings. And that's what we're trying to do with Tiger Path. So that is the why. That's why we're doing Tiger Path. In our next episode, we'll talk about how we do it. So we have 6 strategies that we've researched that we're implementing, and we'll talk all about that in our next show. Well, that brings us to the end of our first program of Hutchinson Economic Developments. We talked a little bit about the Landing Apartment Project. We talked a little bit about the Tiger Path program at Hutchinson High School. And our next episode, we're going to talk about the Jorgensen Hotel Project, and then we're going to look at the how of Tiger Path and what we're doing over there and how we're implementing this program. So we'll look forward to seeing you in our next program.